right, welcome to the latest Blood Money episode. Today we have two very special guests, Carolyn Blakeman and Denise Fritter. How you guys doing?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the Blood Money podcast. Let's dive right into it. I don't know, whichever one of you wants to give us a summary of where we are right now in terms of the medical freedom battle. What happened to you, Denise? If you could tell us a little bit of background in terms of what's gone on thus far.
Carolyn, do you want to introduce?
Sure. So I've been on the show before with our founder, Brad Geyer, and we are the former Feds Group Freedom Foundation, which we're fighting all the crimes against humanity regarding to COVID. We have 1,300 documented cases, hospital protocol murders, and a lot of jab injuries. But the hospital protocol cases are starting to take wind. We have about 90 filed across the country. They're getting past the PrEP Act, not by using med mal, but by using constructive fraud, because these patients were not given a choice about their treatment. They were not informed about these deadly EUA drugs that they're giving them. And a perfect example is Denise here that's with me. She's works with our organization, helping to try to educate people on what's going on, and lost her 36-year-old daughter to this protocol in a very cruel way. And this is not an isolated event. We have a list of 25 commonalities that show these 25 things are happening in almost every single one of our cases. And like I said, we've got well over 1,000, 1,300 almost, and they grow every day. So, I wanted Denise to come on and give you a little recap of what happened to her, so people can be aware of what's going on in these hospitals, because they are being incentivized financially to use these protocols.
Yeah.
And,
for the viewer out there, I just want to throw a quick note. We've done a lot of episodes on basically the hospital killing fields. I mean, that's what Thomas Renz calls it. That's what a lot of lawyers that we've interviewed call these hospitals. I mean, there's one specifically that was quite heartbreaking with Scott Shera, that we did an episode of Blood Money with him. His daughter was basically murdered in one of these hospitals because the value of her in death was more than keeping her alive. So they're going to make something like $300,000 for killing this child, which is exactly what they did. And the thing that I have a really difficult time grappling with, I mean, this is a genocidal act. This is something that's premeditated. These doctors know what they're doing. How is this all happening? It's quite shocking that something like this is even possible in our country and in the Western world.
Yeah, so this is my daughter. She was 36 years old the summer of 2021. She contracted COVID on August 27th. She sought help on August 31st. From the time she presented at the ED at the Schertz Baptist Neighborhood Hospital in Schertz, Texas, that was the last time anybody laid eyes on her. Her fiance took her to the hospital at 2 a.m. I went in to be with her sons. It's whew. The only thing she had wrong with her was COVID. She had a little shortness of breath. Otherwise, she was vibrant. She was healthy. She had no health issues whatsoever. She was a little bit obese. We're all obese. We're all obese.
Mm-hmm.
On September 1st, she was admitted to the Schertz Baptist Hospital. That morning, she called me and said, "Mom, there's a brand new drug. They want to use it on me. They're saying it's gonna cure COVID." And I asked her, "What is the name?" She said, "I don't know." I said, "Did they talk to you about the side effects?" She said, "No, but they assure me it's going to be fine. It's going to help me. I'm only going to be in here for a day or two, and then I'm going to be released and I'll be fine." So we went on to talk about something else. Well, but also she said she couldn't start it that day because her liver enzymes were high. And apparently her liver enzymes were high because she had been taking Tylenol at home. So that afternoon, she called me and said, Mom, they're going to start the medication. And I said, before you start the medication, Jamie, you need to find out what medication it is, and you need to find out the side effects. She said, no, Mom, it's okay. I said, let me talk to a nurse or a doctor. Well, a nurse came on. The nurse would not tell me. She would not tell me what the medication was. She just told me what Jamie knew. So she's 36. She's an adult. There wasn't a whole lot I could do. So I said, okay. From that day forward, I saw my daughter rapidly decline. And I kept telling them that she's declining. She's not getting better. What are y'all doing? So September 3rd, they decided to transfer her to Northeast Baptist Hospital to a step-down unit. I went up there. A nurse came out. Again, nothing was said about remdesivir. I asked, what medications are you giving her? No one answered. No one told me. Medications is, we're doing the medication regime there, just nothing specific. On September 5th, she was transferred to the ICU. Now, mind you, I'm watching her decline. I'm hearing it. I'm not watching it because I couldn't get in, but I'm hearing it, her decline. So on September 5th, when she went into the ICU, I went up there and I basically stormed the ICU and I said, I want to know what's going on. I want to talk to a doctor. Or Nurse Dupree and a respiratory therapist came out first. And the respiratory therapist was the one that told me she was on remdesivir. Now, Jamie's older sister is a nurse. And every time I would talk to someone, I had Nicole on the phone. When she heard remdesivir, she said, Mom, you need to get her out of that immediately. And mind you, she's already had 4 doses and I'm seeing a rapid decline in her already. So I said, I want to talk to a doctor. I don't want to talk to y'all. I want to talk to a doctor. I want to find out what the treatment plan is. I want to speak to a doctor. Several hours later, Dr. Stephen Ime came out, and I have never, ever encountered such a rude, cold, and callous person, especially a medical doctor. He sat across from me. I asked him, what are you doing for her? He says, we're giving her the medication that's prescribed. I said, what medication? I said, are you giving her remdesivir? He said, yes. I said, you need to stop the remdesivir. I can't do that. I said, she needs ivermectin. She doesn't need remdesivir. She needs ivermectin. I am not going to order that medication. I mean, he point blank looked me in the eyes and said, I am not going to order that medication. I asked for monoclonal antibodies. I asked for modalities that you would normally use. He was not budging from the hospital protocol, period. At one point, he popped up out of his seat and walked away. We're still having a conversation. And he gets up out of his seat and walked away. And I said, excuse me, doctor. And he turned around and looked at me. And I said, can't we even have a discussion about any other medications? And again, he looked at me and said, I will not order that medication.
Could I ask a question here? Are you suing this doctor personally?
No, I am seeking representation, but the justice system is locked up right now. The PrEP Act and the CARES Act gives these monsters immunity.
Which is Obama's doing, basically.
Yes.
I mean, you're literally talking about a murderer. This lawyer, lawyers. I hear about so many lawyers that are qualified as murderers too. But let's focus on this doctor. I mean, this doctor is a murderer.
Yes.
I mean, he knows what he was doing, and just by
every doctor there knew. At one point I talked to Hospenthal, a doctor. He was a respiratory doctor. And he gave me some far off kind of weird explanation. And my daughter wasn't on the phone at that point. And when I told her, she said, Mom, what is he even talking about? Nothing we asked was we would ask very pointed questions, and they would talk around the question. They would never answer our question directly. So after Dr. Stephen Ime left, I was livid.
What was his name again? Let's hear this murderer's name again.
Dr. Stephen Ime, I-M, in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
Murderer, yes. So I asked to speak to somebody above his head. Well, they gave me who I call the gatekeeper. His name was Victor. I don't have his last name. He was an RN. His title was RN house officer. He was actually a house manager. From that point forward, everything had to go through Victor. Everything. Any question we had, any concern we had, everything had to go through Victor. Who, again, he presented himself, caring and empathetic, but he was not. He knew exactly what was going on. There was one time I was in his office and they kept telling me we're following hospital protocol. And I was in his office and my daughter was on the phone and I kept pressing him, what is the hospital protocol? Who's making the decision? Where's the hospital protocol coming from? He kept, running around. My daughter kept asking him. And finally he said, it's coming from the FDA or CDC. My daughter's a nurse. She was at that point, she was a home health nurse, and she had the protocol being sent to her almost on a daily basis. She already had it pulled up on her phone. So she read to him ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, all these other medications that they could have used, but refused. At that point, he told me he was not going to talk to my daughter anymore, and he refused to speak to my daughter.
Wow.
My forward.
Wow.
So there's so much, Vem. Jamie called me one time and said, Mom, I feel like I'm dry from the inside out. And I didn't know a nurse was in there with her. And I said, are they giving you water? And the nurse says, we're giving her sips of water. I said, sips of water? She's telling you she's thirsty. Her mouth is dry. She's thirsty. Well, all we can do is give her sips of water because when we take the mask off, her oxygen drops. I said, well, can you at least give her ice chips? She's prone. She's on her stomach. Can you at least give her ice chips? Oh no, we can't do that because it's a choking hazard.
She's on her stomach.
She's on her stomach. She said, how can it be a choking hazard? Well, we can continue to give her sips of water. They denied her hydration. They denied her nutrition. They denied her basic daily care. They denied visitation. She was isolated. I had to fight. To allow her cell phone to be in the room. On September 6th, I got a call. No, Jamie sent me a text message and said, Mom, I feel like I need one-to-one care. So I called her and I said, baby girl, what's going on? And she said, I don't know. She says, they're not talking to me. They're not telling me what's going on. So she said she's in a full-blown panic attack. And so I started talking her down. We started talking about weird, dumb stuff. And I started calming her down. She was calming down. And she said to me, Mom, the doctor and the nurse are here. My last words to my daughter were, okay, let them take care of you. And we hung up. Dr. Tamara Simpson called me about 45 minutes to an hour later and told me they had to vent Jamie. She told me her oxygen went down to 45%. I will never, ever forget. That is etched in my brain and it's etched in my heart. 45%. The first question out of my mouth was, did Jamie give you consent? And she said, yes. I said, how? She said, well, I asked her and she answered yes. I said, you're putting her on a vent because her oxygen went to 45%. How could she answer that with a yes? Well, she shook her head yes. Now, I'm not a medical person, but I have common sense. If you're at 45%, you can't comprehend a question, much less answer a question. When I got part of Jamie's records, it's documented on the same date by the same doctor at the same time. Her oxygen went down to 60% or 70%. Was it 45, 60, or 70%? I will never know because there's 3 different percentages. So after Jamie was on the vent, I fought to allow her phone to stay in the room with her so that we could at least have communication. She could hear our voices. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if I can't be there in person, she can at least hear our voices. And we played music 24/7, just something to stimulate her. They continually hung the phone up, continually, day and night. I would have to call Victor. Victor would call them. And, at first it was, okay, we'll get it back on. I would call, they would answer. And then it got to be, well, there's 36 other patients in the hospital, Denise. We don't have time just for Jamie. You know what? Jamie's my daughter, and I'm advocating for her. If I could advocate for the other 36 patients, I would. But she's my daughter. I'm advocating for her. I'm asking you to go in and answer the phone when I call so I can have communication with my daughter. That was even a chore. So Jamie was on the vent from September 6th to September 13th. I got COVID. My mother got COVID. My husband got COVID. My nurse daughter came up to San Antonio, picked us up, and took us down to her little country doctor who prescribed ivermectin and other steroid and other medications. Mm-hmm. I'm here today because of ivermectin.
Wow.
I'm here today to tell Jamie's story because of ivermectin. I should have died. I should have been hospitalized, but that doctor knew what was going on with Jamie, because at one point I wanted to move Jamie. And at first I was told no. And then I was told no other hospital in San Antonio would accept her. And then I was told, well, you have to find a hospital and a doctor that would accept her. That's easy. I called my daughter. Within 2 hours, she had a hospital and a doctor down South Texas that would accept her. But they had tanked her oxygen. Even life flight, her oxygen was too low to move her. 2 hours. 2 hours. So I'm so sick. I have COVID. I'm out of it. So Nicole had to take over. On September 13th, Nicole got the call that Jamie had coded. And they were working on her. And Nicole knew. So she called her best friend. She was at work. She called her best friend and met her best friend. And just at the time she met her best friend, the doctor called and told her that Jamie had been murdered, had succumbed. And the way she told Nicole was so cold and callous. Your sister died. What do you want to do with the body? No empathy whatsoever. None.
She actually said, your sister died. What do you want to do with the body? Those were her exact words.
Yes. What do you want to do with the body?
That's horrible.
Yeah. And is just one of many. In my brain and in my heart, Jamie was hospitalized 13 days before they murdered her. I've heard all the other stories. I've heard of loved ones being in the hospital for months. I've seen the pictures of the abuse. I've seen the pictures of the hands and the feet and the turning black. I've seen the bruising. I've seen these horrific pictures. The only consolation that I have is that Jamie only suffered for 13 days. Because if she would have been in longer, God only knows what they would have done to her.
Yeah, we have those stories, and they're it's unreal.
But you know what? There's so much more to the story, because the story doesn't stop with Jamie's murder. There's the fallout of her murder. She was a mom to a 15-year-old son. He and his mom were close. I mean, they were so close. She adored him. He adored her. I was like a second mom to all of my grandchildren. After Jamie's murder, I believe that was on a Monday, the father went to school and took Aiden out of school. Aiden didn't want to go with him. He was 15 at the time. He should have had a choice, but he didn't give him a choice. Within the week, Aiden was at a psychiatric hospital because he had made an outcry to one of his friends. And even that system failed Aiden. The medical system failed my daughter. Now here we are in a psychiatric hospital, mental health, and that system failed my grandson because they allowed the father to be with him for the 48 hours he was there. He was stuck by his side. Aiden could not tell them how he felt, what was going on. 9 months after the murder of my daughter, Aiden was isolated, alienated from his entire maternal family because I didn't follow the father's rules. Aiden is being mentally, emotionally, and physically abused. I have the pictures. CPS, Aiden made an outcry. CPS investigated. They saw the bruising on his neck, but it doesn't rise to their criteria to get involved. And I had to take my grandson back to the abuser. Let me grab somebody by the throat and leave bruising and see what happens to me as an adult. But I had to take him back.
So now you've lost your daughter and your grandson. It doesn't stop.
Yeah, I got to say something here, for the viewers, and this is the thing the viewers need to understand. We are in a destroyed country. We are in a country that is so predatory. All systems are predatory. All these industrial complexes are predatory. They are based upon the destruction of our families, of our children, and these scumfucks that run The system are doing this for their own benefit. Doesn't matter if they destroy lives. And I apologize, I curse, but it's very hard not to curse when you constantly keep hearing. I mean, this is Blood Money episode 190 something. Every single episode, we've heard about these predatory systems, whether it's the courts, whether it's the military-industrial complex, whether it's the military-industrial complex sacrificing our own children, or the medical industrial complex sacrificing our own children, or sacrificing children overseas. You know, we talk about enemies, right? We have these enemies overseas. Oh, you know, the Hezbollah is our enemy. Hamas is the Muslim world. Everybody's our enemy, right? The true enemy is here. The true enemy, the true treason is right here. And it's these industrial complexes that benefit from the destruction, predatory systems, and it's across the board. And so, as somebody that's been doing like literally hundreds of these interviews, I look at these systems and I say, how do you even come out of this? I mean, this is literally a Luciferian industrial complex based upon the destruction of their own citizens, which, by the way, has implications too, because citizen actually, if you look at the legal definition, it's important to see what they think of us. We're basically bottom feeders as citizens, like slaves. That's what it means. If you follow the Roman lineage of what, so we keep saying we're citizens, thinking that that's supposed to provide us with protection. No, we're lower than dogs in their eyes. And you know what I mean? Like we're animals, like we're nothing to them, you know? How do you look at something like this and say, look, the whole thing needs to fall apart. This is no longer fixable. Everything needs to be reset, start from scratch. I mean, how do you say anything but that? I mean, I would love to hear your opinions on that topic.
Yeah, we have to just completely abolish these systems we have and put people back in there that are going to follow the Constitution, that care about humanity, and rebuild. I mean, that's our only choice. I don't think they're reformable right now, personally. You know, other people.
Question on that topic, and it's going to be a controversial question. I mean, it is called the Blood Money podcast, so it's kind of hard to avoid these controversial questions. But how do we get beyond this without these individuals getting the just punishment that they deserve? I mean, if somebody murders somebody, you're talking about potential death penalty and or life in prison, right? How do we get these people to see justice? Because unless that nurse, unless that POS doctor are through a lawful process, I'm not talking about terrorizing anybody, I'm not talking about committing acts of violence, but through a lawful process, they either end up on the short end of a rope or life in prison through a lawful process, right? Because they just murdered me. Unless that happens, how do we make an example? Because all these travesties keep happening, right? But there's no punishment. And so, and I'll give you an example, right? A lot of, we started a war in the early 2000s based upon lies. It was very clear it was based upon lies. It was very clear that the testimonies that led to the Iraq war were based upon lies. It's very clear that the George W. Bush administration knew exactly what they were doing. Over 1 million people perished. Thousands of American citizens perished. People came back with post-traumatic stress disorder. Suicides through the roof. Every day or every week, something like 25, 50 military veterans commit suicide because of the horrors they were subject to. Living in this country, I've met so many people that have post-traumatic disorder for the rest of their lives because of these BS wars. If we don't punish these individuals, how do we make an example? And how do we discourage others that come along after that person from committing crimes against humanity? Because these are crimes against humanity.
They are. And that's what our organization is focused on, is eventually getting to the crimes against humanity. The first thing we have to do is we have to unbrainwash the general public. We have to get them, we have to flood these stories out there and get the rest of the public. They may have the money and the power, but we have the people. And we get enough citizens, I don't want to use that word now, we get enough people on our side that know what's going on, believes it, and takes action. Because right now, silence is complicit, in my opinion. If you know something's going on, and even if it hadn't happened to you, then you stand up and you fight alongside, or we're going to lose this country. Then we have to have more.
Silence is acquiescence, which means that by your silence, you are accepting it. You are condoning it. Right. You are basically signing your signature. So people that are out there that are silent, cowardly, you just put your signature on that document, which involves the murder of this child. That's
and
what you're doing.
Exactly. And I always ask, if you're wondering what you would have done during the Holocaust, you're doing it now, because this is exactly what is going. And people ignored it back then, and they're ignoring it now. So
Holocaust. I got to bring this up, by the way, because I'm Armenian. Okay, I'm Armenian, and I know all about genocides and stuff. We keep talking about the Holocaust, right? Let's talk about the Armenian genocide that happened in the early 20th century. That was the prototype for the Holocaust. That Hitler actually said, I'm going to go kill all the Jews, because guess what? They did it to Armenians like 30 years ago, and nobody cared. And who remembers the Armenians, right? That was the statement, okay? Now, you look at these like kind of Luciferian movements. You see these attacks on Christianity. I bring up the Armenians because that was a very specific attack on the Armenian Christian population, the Greek Christians, the Assyrian Christians. It was a holy war against Christianity, right? How do you fight that sort of thing when you're doing the exact same thing within this country?
Yeah. And we need more courageous attorneys that are faith bounded. And we have a few. I've been searching for 3 years. There's 1 million attorneys in this country, and I think I've got 20 maybe on board. We have about 90 cases filed across the country, and they've gotten pretty creative in their causes of action, which has made them get past the PrEP Act. Because, this PrEP Act that gave everybody immunity to murder people is completely, and that needs to be challenged. The constitutionality of that needs to be challenged immediately. But by using fraud instead of medical malpractice, fraud and battery and elder abuse and all these practicing medicine without a license, breach of fiduciary duty, professional misconduct. We have to get creative on how we do these cases so they can make it past the PrEP and get it in front of juries. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. So they can see Denise's story and all these other stories, because I want to believe that the regular Americans out there will be sympathetic to these and vote the right way when they make their decision.
Well, here's my question. When we're talking
sorry to interrupt you, Denise. Just a quick question on that topic. What about punishment, Carolyn? What about is there ever an avenue for these individuals to be punished? Because the things that we hear in terms of, we're very involved in terms of talking to people. I mean, we are this far away from this country exploding. And I'm talking potential vigilante type situations, which I don't condone, I don't support, but I'm very well aware from talking to a lot of people that the frustration is at a level that we might start seeing independent vigilante acts of violence. That's where it is, because the system has failed we the people over and over again. I mean, where do you think this is all going? Let me ask you, where do you think this is all going? Is there an actual just punishment via the courts coming down the pipeline, or are these people just going to get away with the mass murder? What's your opinion on the topic?
No. They're not going to get away with it. They're not going to get away with it because people like me, loved ones like me, we're standing up and we're telling them, no, this is not going to continue. You murdered my daughter. My daughter was not murdered in vain. You will not get away with this. You won't. If we don't find justice on earth, there will be justice in heaven. And that's where we have to turn. We have to turn to God, because man can't fix what the Luciferian cabal has made. We are just vessels. That's all we are. We are vessels of God. We have to discern. We have to listen. We have to ask God how we have to move forward. And that's how we win. That's how we win.
Yeah, I think the evil people behind this thought they were just going to shrivel up and go away because they're so depressed and so broken. But I'm seeing just the opposite. These people are grieving very hard, but they're fighting even harder. And they underestimated that.
Yeah, I am a grieving mom, but I'm not just a grieving mom. I'm a pissed off mom. And let me tell you, the mama bear, Mama Bear's got her claws out. I'm coming after them. One way or another, they're going down. They're going down.
I could
And
tell
that's
you.
why
I mean, I have a mom, and I won't tell you specifics about the situation right now, but there was a great injustice that did occur to our family, you know, and I got to tell you, my mom, 7 years later, it's as if this happened yesterday, and finally we are seeing an avenue to holding these people accountable after 7 years. And the one individual within my family, out of all the males, out of every single person that never stopped being a warrior, is my mother. So yes, mama bears, there's a level of badassery when it comes to mama bears that you will just, I don't know, it just I guess,
I
hell
think,
hath no fury like a woman scorned, maybe, I don't
Yeah.
know.
yep. I mean,
Mom,
we're talking about pissing off millions of moms and widows. That was a bad
Mhm.
move.
very
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
Because
Very
we're
Could
bad.
I tell
protective
you? Could I tell you
individuals,
the story?
by nature.
Could I tell you a story? I mean, being Armenian, there's things that I've seen. Armenians are generally Christian people, right? And we've prayed a lot. Believe me, we've prayed a lot. And there's a famous saying by William Sarorian, who was an Armenian writer, who said our prayers are not heard because we went through genocide until today. In Armenia, Muslim extremists are still killing Armenians, right? Because there's literally surrounded that landlocked country with three Muslim republics, two of which hate them, and so
Mhm.
that's always happening. So it seems as though sometimes prayers are unanswered. But what I could tell you is that the only effective thing, and again, I'm going to give you a historical fact. I'm not necessarily using this historical fact to promote any kind of violence or anything like that. But there's a book called Operation Nemesis, right? When the Armenian genocide happened, 3/4 of the population was disseminated. The only thing left was orphans. Literally, the only thing left was orphans and some clergymen and a few that survived the genocide. Operation Nemesis was 22 Armenians, right? And it's very similar to the Munich story that Steven Spielberg made a film about, having to do with the Mossad going after the perpetrators of the Holocaust, right? So in Operation Nemesis, 22 individual Armenians traveled the world and literally killed every single one of the perpetrators of genocide. One of them, who was the main perpetrator of the genocide, he was the Adolf Hitler of the bunch, was shot in Germany, in Berlin, on the streets in 1921. They put this man through a trial and let him go free because the trauma that he had suffered, seeing his family be slaughtered in the Armenian genocide, they basically gave him pass. The jury gave him pass, let him go, And Operation Nemesis, while the world was silent, none of these people, there was no Nuremberg, there was none of that, but they took care of every single one of the perpetrators of genocide. And that was the only effective thing that happened. And I'm not suggesting there's an Operation Nemesis here with a bunch of vigilantes that go around murdering, corrupt individuals that made this possible. But it seems as though that was the only effective thing in terms of, what happened with the Armenian genocide.
Well, I think we have to take it into our own hands, as not in a violent way, but we have to be active and just proactive in getting our rights back and getting people on the right side of this and getting people to fight for us for this. And I don't think that we're going to stop until we see that justice. And then whether it's in the courts, whether it's, voting judges out, getting them, impeached or whatever it takes, that we're going to keep on fighting until there is justice here on earth. And we know there's going to be justice, in the afterlife, but they've overplayed their hand. They've killed too many Americans, and Americans aren't China, North Korea. They're not just going to bow down to our leaders and take it. When throughout history, when Americans are pushed, we push back harder. So, I don't see us stopping. I mean, people have asked me how long you can volunteer and do this. I'm like, probably forever. We have so many systems that are broken. I mean, I don't see it stopping, and for a long time. I mean, we're looking at, if we get to Nuremberg too, it's going to be a ways to go. But thank God we have a founder who's very, he was a former federal prosecutor for 21 years. He's been on the other side, so he knows how to build task force. He knows how to do investigations. He knows how to build programs and rebuild systems. So, we started the whistleblower protection program, where we're encouraging whistleblowers to come forward, confess what they did, what they did, what they saw, what they know, so we can build a huge, database of whistleblowers, and we can take this system down, because that's what it's going to take. I know people are like, I don't want anybody to get leniency or whatever, but we need hardcore evidence. We need eyewitness testimony. We need the emails, the videos, and the evidence, so we can make mass prosecutions and convictions. And that's, you have to have that. I mean, it's just a necessary evil. But yeah, we encourage any whistleblower to come forward that was in the hospital, that saw this, that has any kind of document or video or even eyewitness testimony, so we can start building these rock solid cases, because these are doctors and nurses who probably don't have a record. They're going to get a slap on the wrist being a first time offender, and not if you have that evidence that shows they had intent. If we say, you shouldn't have used that protocol, they could say, I didn't know, this is what the CDC said. But if we have an email that says from another nurse saying this protocol is killing people, and the doctor replies, so what? Then that's a whole different story, because they knew. And it's I think we'll get it. We have whistleblowers.
They were able to hide behind the isolation. They alienated the patients, and they were able to hide behind that. So we have survivors that can testify to what they went through, how they were treated, what the protocol was, all of that. But Carolyn's right. We need the doctors and the nurses to come forward, because they were the ones in the hospital. I can only tell you my daughter's story from my side of it. I don't know. I wasn't allowed in the hospital. I didn't see it. I can tell you what I experienced. I can tell you what's written in her records, but I wasn't there to see it. And 36 years, my daughter had never been alone in the hospital, in the ER, for an important doctor's visit, nothing. Someone was always with her, a family member. Most of the time it was me. As we are as a family, we're always there for each other. But this time was different. They alienated, they isolated my daughter. And they did it on purpose, because if I would have been there, I don't know if I could have saved her, but I would have visually seen what was going on. And you think my voice is loud now? If I would have physically seen what was going on, my voice would have started long before Jamie's murder. Trust me.
Jamie had to call her mom to tell him that they wouldn't take her to the bathroom. I mean, just the most humiliating. They dehumanize these people. They don't give them any kind of mouth care for 13 days. No food, no nutrition. They're tied down. They're either physically or medically, chemically restrained. I mean, this is torture. And then they die alone and scared.
Yeah, and the techniques of isolation. I mean, this is the sort of thing. I mean, we've done a lot of episodes on basically the domestic terrorism of the family law courts. There's no other way to say it. It's a domestic terrorist institution, and we see the isolation is used as a technique there. Now, if you actually research of what is crimes against humanity, you go to the International Criminal Courts of Justice, you read their laws on what is a crime against humanity. Isolation is a part of it. So these terroristic ideas are being used by all these courts in order to basically disempower people, in order for them to be able to get away with their crimes against humanity. And that's what I'm hearing from this situation happening in a hospital right here in the United States.
Yeah, and we have 1,300 right now documented as cases, and we're one organization with hundreds waiting to be interviewed. And they just pour in every day, and it's the exact same story. We made that document called the 25 commonalities, and it blows people's mind, because I'll ask the victims, so which of these 25 happened in your case? And almost every one of them are like, all of them. And this is over 1,000 cases. I mean, you can't tell me this was not an orchestrated plan. That's not a coincidence that all these things are happening to all these people.
Wow.
But you know what? Systems too. It's a medical system, but it's also, we talk about the justice system. It's also the justice system, because when in the history, when there is a murder committed, when do you have to hire an attorney to file charges?
Yeah.
When?
This should be prosecutors. This should be prosecutors.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you know what? I wrote to the governor of Texas. I wrote to Governor Greg Abbott, and I wrote to Ken Paxton. in April of 2023. And I got a dismissal letter from both of them.
Yeah.
The Attorney General of Texas, it's not in his purview. Murder is not in your purview.
Yeah. And you're talking about, by the way, Greg Abbott. You're talking. Sorry, Greg Abbott, quick little note here. You're talking about somebody that's kept his border open. You're talking about somebody that's invested in these lands that they're building migrant housing, literally invested, financially invested. So this man who's supposed to guard our borders is financially invested in all this illegal immigration. And this is the person, this corrupt scumbag of an individual is the person that we got to go to seek justice when we already know that man's a criminal.
Right.
Oh yeah, I mean the criminals are on both sides. Both sides.
Yeah. His answer to me was, well, reported to the Texas Medical Board, whom I appoint. You appoint the Texas Medical Board. I'm bringing the fact that my daughter was murdered by a hospital protocol, and you're telling me to go back to the Texas Medical Board, which you appoint? I mean, we're playing a shell game here. Seriously.
Mm-hmm. Well, I will tell you that a law firm in Florida, Rachel Rodriguez and her team, have drafted up a complaint and has filed it with the Florida Attorney General and with the Texas Florida Attorney General. That is a request to open a criminal investigation against Fauci and company for second-degree murder. And many of our victims in Texas have handwritten letters, and that's part of the appendix of the complaint. And we're demanding that they open a criminal investigation into this. So we'll see where that goes, but that is started, and
Attorney General Ken Paxton, I'm putting you on notice. As
There
soon
you
as
go.
you get that letter, 2 weeks later, there will be a protest in front of your office, and it will continue. It will continue until you listen to us, until you hear us and you take action. You are on notice. Attorney General Ken Paxton, Texas, you are on notice. When you get that letter, we will be in front of your office protesting and demanding justice.
We got 100 of Denise's stories in Texas.
If I could throw a quick little thing here, I mean, we recently interviewed Jeff Younger, who's a father who hasn't seen his children in quite a while, in years. His son, at 2 years old, the mother wanted to transition him into female. At 2 years old, the child is 5 years old right now. He's essentially been run out of Texas because he called out all these people. He called out Abbott. He called out Paxton. He called out all the people in the state legislature because they did nothing to prevent this child abuse, literally child abuse by a mom that is, I don't think, emotionally, mentally stable, because you don't transition 2 and 5-year-olds to female before they've even discovered their sexuality. It's clear that what she is doing is wrong, but yet he's gotten no help. And on top of it, he's basically been run out of Texas because he was trying to hold these individuals accountable. Now he has to move to California because the mom moved to California with the child in order to transition the child, because Texas put up some laws that, you know, we could, I don't want to get into the details about the laws, but it's these like flimsy laws to prevent that sort of thing. But with a loophole, which is that you could take your child to another state like California and pretty much do whatever you want, right? And he's gotten zero help from these so-called Republicans. Yeah.
Run me out of Texas. Try to run me out of Texas.
I think you and Jeff Younger need to connect. Seriously, I feel like there's chemistry here. That
Denise is pissed. I'll tell you that. That's why she's starting these protests in Texas.
And as a matter of fact, thank you, Cece. As a matter of fact, my first protest is going to be in front of the hospital that murdered my daughter, Northeast Baptist Hospital, San Antonio, Texas, on February 3rd. Be there. We're going to protest right in front of that hospital. It will be from 11 to 1 or however long it takes for them to hear us. But that's my first protest. Again, Ken Paxton, be on notice, because we're going to be knocking on your door too.
And I
What about protesting in front of the home of, and if you don't mind mentioning his name again, the murdering doctor, the scumbag. What's his name again?
Well, the first
Stephen
one was
Ime.
Dr. Stephen Ime. Yeah.
Dr. Stephen Ime. What about protesting in front of Dr. Stephen Ime's home?
That is on the agenda, as well as in front of his office and all the other doctors that are listed in her records. Yes.
I mean, what I would do again, I've talked to a lot of individuals that have been very effective in holding people accountable, right? And I got to tell you, it's a blood sport, right? In that what this individual would do, and just throwing some ideas here in case it inspires you, is make a lot of flyers. You know, this individual's a murderer, murdered my daughter, and go to his home, and within a 5-mile radius, make sure thousands of flyers are passed out. Make sure every mailbox has a flyer. You find out where the guy goes to lunch, find out where the guy goes to dinner, find out where the guy likes to go to holiday. Make sure that within a 5-10 mile radius, everyone knows what's going on. So this man can't even walk into Starbucks without people. And by the way, other people have gone through this, right? They've had, you know, maybe not as bad as your story, but myocarditis, people falling ill because of the jab. People know what's going on. And in fact, I was in California recently talking to a bunch of quote unquote leftists. They all know what's going on. They know because they have at least one person in their world, if not more, that have suffered because of this jab, right? So what about passing out flyers everywhere? What about making this man's life so uncomfortable in his own backyard that this guy can't even leave his home without feeling the vitriol of the people? I mean, I think we need to be that aggressive. What do you think about that kind of approach?
I love it. I love it. And so, true fact, if it's public record, you will not get in trouble for posting or anything like that. So I have Dr. Tamara Simpson's home address. I have her office address. I have Dr. Stephen Imes' home address. I have his office address. I have it all. I just have not gotten myself organized, you know, between trying to grieve for my daughter and trying to, you know, go to court in the faux Bexar County civil court system. Judge Antonio Arteaga, 3 times she asked, produce the child to us. Why would I be in court if I'm trying? I mean, why would I be here if I had the child? Right? Dumb. Okay. But, you know, you struck a nerve there because we do actually have someone in our organization. His father he's in Texas, and his father, and Cece, Carolyn, I'm going to let you take this on because you know the details better than I do. But his father was murdered in Baylor, in Texas.
Yes, he was at Baylor Scott and White, and he actually was a doctor at that same hospital, helped build it. But they violently murdered him in front of his family behind a glass wall. And the son, Andy, who's on our task force, fought so hard and did exactly what you were saying, that the doctor had to run out of, and the president of the hospital was run out of town and had to leave.
It was the CEO of the hospital.
Yeah, CEO of the hospital. And so he took off somewhere. And was because he was humiliated. You know, Andy made sure that he was he made a website, he did flyers, he paid thousands of dollars to get him out there on Twitter. He did all just to make this man's life miserable. And the man had to leave. The murderer had to leave, which is amazing. And that's why I encourage people to come to these protests, because this is not just protesting for Denise's daughter. This is protesting for medical freedom, for our rights, for, you know, against mandates, against having a informed consent. This is just about our rights as Americans. And if you don't stand up and help Denise protest this one, it could very much happen to you too. And your issue, you know, people were there by your side. It's still happening. I was on all morning long today. I was on a hospital rescue call trying to get a man out. They're trying to push the protocol on just today. And and there's another event February 10th on the rotunda of the Oklahoma Capitol, the Medical Freedom Forum, the amazing speakers out there and parent organizations. So I encourage people, if you're in the Oklahoma Capitol area, I think it's in Tulsa, then go to that. You'll get your questions answered. You'll get resources. You'll be educated. with these doctors and attorneys that will be out there speaking. And it's on the second floor of the rotunda. And then also our Halt Hospital homicide rally. We had one last year. It had over 550 victims across the country come, even ones from Alaska. And all-star lineup of speakers this year. We have the premiere of the launch of Mickey Willis's new movie called Bad Medicine, going to be played at our rally. He'll be there to speak. Dr. Brian Artis will keynote speaker. Many other great attorneys and doctors will be there speaking, and it'll be in the Houston area on June 1st. So I'll get more details to you that later when we have the rest of the details worked out. But lots of activity going on. And I encourage just the regular public, get involved, because this has to do with you. It has to do with all of us.
Yeah. And I mean, if, hey, if I got the address of this individual, I would love to publish it, because people should write letters to this individual's home. There's nothing wrong with doing letters. Don't write anything threatening. Don't threaten to kill the guy or whatever. Just let him know that we know what you did. We know what you did. We know where you live. We're not here to cause violence, but we know what you are, and make their lives uncomfortable. There's one individual I know that's actually been very effective, somebody that I admire greatly. His name is Steve Sanson. He goes after corrupt judges and lawyers. The way he does it is that he'll literally get billboards and plaster all their crimes on the billboard. So you're driving down the freeway, you see this judge's ugly face, and you know that this judge has committed crimes against humanity, and there's nothing that they could do, by the way, because if it's verified the person's done crimes, they can't tell you to remove that billboard. And he's been very successful in removing these kind of individuals. So I would say, even if this person, after this, letter writing campaign, after the flyers, after whatever is moves to a different, neighborhood, moves to a different city, go after him over there too, with flyers, information, not violence. I'm talking about using your freedom of speech, freedom of press, just to inform people about what kind of human being this person is. Give them no corner to hide. And then publish it on a website, literal hit list, a hit list, I say in metaphorical terms, not physical terms, of like this. These are the people. These are the people committing crimes against humanity, these doctors, these nurses, with a big ass X over their face. Once that they've been notified, once they've been exposed, and off to the next one. And let that website be public, so all these individuals know that we are coming after them. We are coming after you, because unless you send that message that we are going to metaphorically carpet bomb your life because you are a criminal, regardless of the corrupt bar, unless you send that message, this is going to happen over and over again. They need to talk amongst themselves and have the fear of God within them, that, what, if the guards are not going to do their thing, we the people are going to hunt you down. And hunt you down, I say again, not violent terms. I'm talking about reputation. I'm talking about exposing them for the scumbags they are, so they can't even go to their neighborhood coffee shop and drink a sip of their latte without having eyeballs looking at them. And believe me, that negative energy, the hatred, the vitriol of the people surrounding them all the time, it's like if you're a Nazi, right, walking around, everybody looks at you like you're a Nazi, all of a sudden it's hard to be a Nazi. Really? All of a sudden you're naked. So anyway, that to me is,
I did. I went on Tamara Simpson, Dr. Tamara Simpson. I went on her Facebook. I'm blocked now because I went on her Facebook, and she had posted back in 2020 how horrible it was. She spoke of a teacher, a 40-something-year-old teacher, and she had to vent her. And all these people are coming on, oh, you're such a wonderful doctor. You're so wonderful, blah, 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 blah. I went on there and I put laughing emojis on all of her posts about hospital protocol. I went on there and I said, yeah, you're such a wonderful doctor that you murdered my daughter. She had a picture of her two loves, her and her two daughters. I have two daughters. One lives in heaven and one lives on earth. They were at a concert, and she posted the picture. I'm at such and such concert with my loves. And under that picture, I wrote, you took one of my loves away. You took that away from me because my daughters and I did that. You took that away. I'm blocked now. But you are absolutely right. These are things that are not against the law because it's public. It's if as long as it's public information and you're not threatening, you can do all of this.
Exactly.
I look for Dr. Time. He wasn't on Facebook, but believe me, I've plastered his face all over Facebook and hers.
Yeah.
We
it
started talking about starting.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, that's okay. We did discuss about starting the shame campaign where we're going to shame all of these doctors and nurses publicly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, and in fact, you're telling me that person's got 2 daughters, right? The daughter should get that. The daughter should get that flyer. Your mom, your dad is a murderer. This is what that person did. The daughters, where do they go to school? 5-mile radius. You know what I mean? This is the kind of things we have to do. And there's nothing wrong with information. All we have to do, we don't have to do violence. We don't have to do anything rash, anything illogical. All you have to do is hold a mirror. All you have to do is hold a mirror. And that's what they've tried to stop us doing by censoring us on social media. They're stopping. All we're trying to do is hold a mirror and say, this is who you are. And they're trying to stop that. So we have to put all efforts to hold up that mirror, let the world know what these individuals are, and then let the good conscience of people do the rest.
Yep, exactly.
I will go through Jamie's records, and it's not just those two. It's every doctor, every nurse, every, right? I will go through Jamie's records, and through Carolyn, I will make sure that you get that information and you can put it out. I will give you the hospital, the doctor's address, home address, the office address. I'll give you all. And please, I want everybody to do this. And you know what? If you start doing this, everybody do this. I will do it for others. They do it for me. I will do it for others. Let's do this. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And to the viewers, I'm reiterating one more time. We are going to put this information down there. Nobody should do something foolish. All we're doing is we're letting this person know the facts. Don't talk about what you want to do to the person. Don't talk about nasty things. Don't talk about violence. All you're doing is you're notifying, hey, doctor, we know you killed this person, this child. You put him on remdesivir. Remdesivir kills individuals, and you know that, and we're aware that you know that. That's it. We're aware. This is a mirror we're holding to you. And let that person get 100 letters in the mail, knowing that we, the people, know what that person did, and then let the chips fall where they may, and that is very specifically, I'm talking to viewers. Please don't do anything stupid because you're going to make the Blood Money
podcast I'm not asking anybody to do
yeah.
Just educating.
I would be very specific because I know they're listening. I know they look for that one slip of the word. I'm very cautious. Everything has to be done lawfully, which honestly is a lot better than what they do because they could give a rat's ass about the law.
I am not advocating violence at all. I'm not advocating anything against the law.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. But put them on notice by writing to them. Put them on notice. Do not threaten. Do not, call them out for what they did. They murdered. And they continue to murder with the remdesivir and the hospital protocol. That's what you do. You call them out on it.
Yep.
No violence, no threats.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Ladies, is there anything we didn't talk about in this episode that's worth discussing before we wrap it up?
I think I just wanted to announce the events, the February 3rd, February 10th, and the June 1st, and then let people hear Denise's story. I think it's important for people to really see the human side of this because to those people, the doctors in the hospital, they're just numbers and statistics and money. But these were human beings that were loved, and they were daughters and mothers and brothers and sisters, and these were people that had a life. And it should not be snatched away from you at 36 years old because you were treated with a deadly drug that's not even approved.
Yeah. I mean, in closing, my dad actually is 81 years old. He has a myriad of health issues. And it's just really sad to me because he got COVID like a week and a half ago. And honestly, COVID for somebody with that many health issues is a death sentence. So literally when my mother and I realized he had COVID, we were just a little distraught, to be honest with you, because he's like a person where a common cold could kill him at this point, right? So I called one of my doctor friends, had remdesivir and hydroxychloroquine delivered to my house.
Ivermectin, you meant? Ivermectin. You said
Did
remdesivir.
I say, well, sorry, I
Yeah.
said, oh my God, how did I say that word? All right, so ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine was delivered to my home with a bunch of other supplements as well that complement hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. And within 3-4 hours, my dad was fine. Which that to me, when you were telling me your story and realizing that like literally simple medication could have saved your daughter, and they prevented you from that, that is a crime against humanity. That is that's murder. That's murder. That's knowing you're murdering somebody. So, these people need to pay for what they've done.
Yeah, my husband and I had COVID, and we took ivermectin immediately, and we had symptoms for 3 hours.
Wow.
Literally.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and I know 600 people at least that have treated their COVID within days. I mean, within hours, they're better. But they refused it in the hospital because it's $1. Remdesivir is $32.
Ivermectin saves lives. Ivermectin saves lives. Remdesivir takes lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
That could be a
good
ending. Ivermectin saves lives. Remdesivir takes lives.
Yeah. And if Fauci loves remdesivir so much, he should take a few days of doses and let's see how he feels afterwards. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's the punishment. This is a man that we've heard deserves, to be tried for treason, deserves to, go through a lawful process and get the just punishment. Maybe the just punishment for these people is, why don't you lay down? Let's give you a week of remdesivir. Let's put you on a ventilator and see how things go. Since you love that process so much, let's do it to you.
And a couple boosters. I think it's a great
exactly. Yeah, totally. Yeah, sounds like fun.
I know.
I'll pay for the pay-per-view on that. Actually,
Right. I would too.
Yeah, I just
I don't want any of them harmed. I don't want any of them murdered or anything like that. Right. I want them to contract COVID and get the same exact treatment. Mm-hmm. that they gave their loved ones. Mm-hmm. And if they live through that, then they can go on trial.
Yeah.
Right? That's justice.
Yeah.
That is justice.
Yeah. That's plan. Yeah. I mean, hey, I'm a Christian and we don't necessarily believe in eye for an eye, but this is a great example of an eye for an eye. You know what? We're not just take the same drugs, do the exact same thing. You think it's such a great medical practice to do that? Well, let's do it to you for a week, and then let's see how you're feeling after a week.
Put your money where your mouth is. Prove it's a safe drug. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm asking him to do. Prove it's a safe drug
with yourself.
By doing
it. Yep, good plan. Love it.
Yep. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast, Denise and Carolyn. It's always amazing to have you on the Blood Money podcast. A lot of credit to, you and former feds, the work you're doing. I mean, we greatly admire you. And the fact, Carolyn, that you're ready to do this, till the end of your life. I mean, much credit to you. You're a wonderful soul. We really appreciate the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. There's Jamie.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Denise, thank you so much.
I won't stop until my last breath.
Sorry?
I won't stop until my last breath.
Yeah.
I won't.
Yeah, I know you won't. I know you won't. I got a mom like you. You know what I mean? It's I don't even know how you ladies do it. I don't know how you ladies do it. I mean, it's she's 76-year-old. She won't. She's not going away until justice arrives. I could tell you that, and I could tell that you're very similar.
That's right. That's right.
For the viewers out there, thank you so much for showing up to this Blood Money episode. Definitely check out the descriptions where we will have a lot of information, like the addresses of these scumbags, where you are free to just send them a letter saying, hey, we know what you did. Again, don't nothing crude or violent or threatening. Just let them know, hey, we know what you did. You suck, and we know what you've done. So for the viewers out there, thank you so much for joining us for this Blood Money episode. Make sure you go to americahappens.com, insert your email address so you're subscribed to our shows, and I will see you on the next episode of Blood Money.